You're my flashlight. You're my flashlight.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for my delay. I was 6 minutes delay as I was in a brief meeting. But thank you very much for already taking your positions. Now, this is the last session of the day, and this is on the waste management and recycling. And we have, Dr. Hiroyuki Katayama, who's kindly agreed to chair the session. Dr. Hiroyuki Katayama is currently an associate professor at the Graduate School of Engineering of the University of Tokyo. So, Dr. Katayama, please.
Thank you very much. Very nice introduction. And my name is Katayama, chairing this session of waste management and recycling. I'm very honored to be here for this role. And so I know the coffee break is one of the very important session of the participants. So I'd like to move on to the first presentation. Though the time is quite limited. So I'd like to introduce the first speaker, Dr. Tomonori Ishigaki, who got the PhD in Osaka University. And he has been engaged in the waste landfill issue for more than 15 years. And he is now working in the National Institute for Environment Studies from 2001 to 2005, and moved once to Ryukoku University and coming back to NIES in the year of 2010. So, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Tomonori Ishigaki from Japan. Today, I'm going to talk about the significance of the waste disposal site in Southeast Asia, especially focusing in Thailand. And I think my presentation is directing more technical aspects compared to the former presentations. And at first, I'll start from the background of my presentation. In the primitive stage of urbanization or waste management, the waste generated in the city will be collected and simply transported to the one place we call the dump site or open dump site. And since the collection service is not sophisticated, some person who lives in the city disposed their waste directly into the street or canal, river, and so on. And it generated several problems on the public health and the deterioration of the living standard. Open dump site itself has serious problems like vermination or generation of odor, and more serious accident like a projection hazard or landsliding or wildfire should be happen. I know that last year in Thailand also experienced one big wildfire from the open dump site. This is a kind of bad practice of the primitive waste handlings. But now, most of the city in Southeast Asian country has been in the developing stage of the waste management, I believe. And in this stage, the waste collection service should be improved, and the collection coverage will be increased. And also, by the growth of the population, the amount of the waste to be landfills will be highly increased. So we should prepare more big capacity of the waste disposal site or landfill in this stage. And dump site is also upgraded in this stage, so-called sanitary landfill. This kind of anaerobic sanitary landfill is very popular and widely adopted in the several cities in developing countries, not only in the Southeast Asia. And this is so-called the kind of the partially engineered landfill because it equipped the certain surface cover layers or bottom lining system, even the construction is incomplete, and also partial drainage system that can discharge the leachate from the inside of the landfill to the outside. Even it is still upgraded from the compared to the open dump site. It still have several problems. The one big issue is the very slow degradation of the waste in this type of the landfills. And it generates several problems of the odors, vermination tools, and also generation or emission of the flammable gas and greenhouse gas and so on. And second issue should be the potential pollution of the water environment by the leakage from the bottom or beneath of the landfill site, or overflow of the leachate from the stabilization pond on the of the leachate. In the advanced waste management in the society, like in Japan or in European country, people well known about the importance of the upstream management. Source separation or resource recovery has been implemented in this situation. And several technologies as a pre-treatment of the landfilling or recycling activity has been also introduced before landfill. This kind of activity can successfully decrease the amount of the waste to be landfilled. However, the quality of the debris that is transported to the landfill became worse by the concentration of the toxic substances. Our experimental study also indicated that these kind of easily degradable organics contained in the waste has been stopped the biodegradation gasification by mixing with the debris from the recycling facility because of the toxic effect on the microbes in the landfills. Not only for the microbes, but for the plants or animals, this kind of toxic effect has been observed. Even in this kind of the advanced waste management systems, we are still facing the several problems relating to the disposal site or landfills. And to solve these problems, we have to adapt a comprehensive approach for achieving the integrated waste management. Some professors already mentioned about the importance or significance of the upstream management. Yes, I know. Maybe later presenter should also state it. But it doesn't mean we can leave the problems related to be unsolved, and we have to develop some technical aspects relating to the landfill management. So today, I want to talk about our struggle of the development of the technology in the landfill management in Thailand. And also, hopefully, I want to talk about some trial on the pre-treatment that is also implemented in Thailand. But sorry, I didn't know about, I have only 20 minutes for presentation. I saw the 25 minutes for presentation, so I may skip this part. And finally, I want to talk about the leachate management technology or requirement of the leachate management to reduce the whole environmental impact from the waste management systems. First of all, I want to start from the application of the semi-aerobic landfill management for tropical regions. As I already explained about the detail on the sanitary type landfill like this, but the difference of the semi-aerobic management of the landfill is that this technology is directing it to the passive ventilation through the bottom line of the drainage systems to the vertical gas ventilation pipes. And it was said that it can contribute to promote the biodegradation of the waste and also to prevent the generation of the methane by changing the condition from anaerobic to aerobic. So we saw it is a kind of the reasonable management of the landfill in Southeast Asian country because it doesn't require so high technical aspects, knowledge, and also it doesn't need any additional labor, energy, something like that. However, one thing we have to consider when we introduce this technology is we have to keep the inner water level as low as possible to allow the ventilation from the bottom drainage systems. If the bottom drainage was sunk by leachate, air cannot penetrate, permeate into the landfill body itself. So this is very important things, and it also means that the huge amount of the leachate must be generated in this management. This thing is not so bad things, in fact, because otherwise the leachate can be just stored inside the landfill, and it increases the potential risk of the leakage from the beneath or the bottom side. However, for the landfill owner or for landfill manager, they have to consider how to handle this kind of large amount of the leachate appropriately. So we had constructed the experimental, we call the test cell, the kind of experimental landfill site in the real landfill in the municipality in Thailand to compare the operation mode of the semi-aerobic and sanitary type management. I should just say the result only to serve the time, but the semi-aerobic management can effectively, successfully change the environmental condition to aerobic, and the emission of the methane can be reduced compared to the sanitary management. And also semi-aerobic management can contribute to reduce the nitrogen impact, nitrogen emission from the leachate state. So we have modelized these behaviors of the gas and leachate in this landfill management. And also we have summarized the technical guidance of the semi-aerobic landfill in Southeast Asia. Now it is only for in Thailand, but we are trying to spread to the other countries in Southeast Asia. First thing is a very important theory of this technology. The end of drainage pipe must be open to the air and not be in sunk. Especially in this country, the difference of the temperature in the air and the landfill site is very small. It means that the driving force of the air permeation is lower than Japanese case. So the condition of the drainage end must be very important to at least to keep the possibility of the air permeation. And second thing, this is very unique phenomenon that we found. The over drainage or rapid drainage in landfill site will cause something like a lack of the moisture in the landfill site, and it may affect to the biodegradation in the landfill. This kind of phenomena can be observed, especially in the dry season in your country, and also hottest season, hottest months. But we never see this kind of the behavior in Japanese landfill. So still, we are monitoring the why and when this kind of the phenomena can be happen. And third things, this kind of the drainage may result in the generation of the large amount of the leachate. So we also required certain technology or management of this kind of the volume of the leachate. It means that we need something like a combination of the landfill management and the leachate management, both sides. And I want to move on to the next topics on the mechanical biological treatment, but I already said that I don't have enough time, so I want to just briefly introduce the contents. The MBT is very well-known technology for the pretreatment of the landfill site that is developed in Germany. And we have surveyed the real MBT plant that is in Thailand. And results show that the MBT can successfully reduce the debris. Debris means that the residue that cannot use and goes to the landfill. So 7.5% of the initial waste can be landfills. So it means that we can reduce the amount of the waste before landfilling. However, from the viewpoint of the emission from the landfill, I mean the organic content in the debris is still high, and we need much more technology to reduce these kind of the organics by additional treatment after MBT, or just changing the operation mode in the MBT process. So now we are developing our technology in this municipality too. So I want to back to my presentation for the application of the constructed wetland for treating the landfill leachate in tropical region. Most of waste landfill is possessing this kind of the leachate pond. Sometimes it's called the leachate stabilization pond or leachate lagoon. Anyway, we think it is all the same things to be. And it is worked as the reservoir or buffer zone before discharging the water to the environment, open environment. And it was expected the natural purification and evaporation to reduce the volume. But our analysis of the water balance in the real landfill revealed that it is almost impossible to manage the leachate volume only by this kind of the leachate pond, especially in rainy season. I don't say the detail, but the leachate can be discharged into the water environment without any kind of the stabilization. And the percentage of the leakage or overflow has been also accounted to the 41%. It means that the leachate directly it goes to the open environment. So we have to consider how to enforce the function of the leachate pond. And we have adapted the concept of the constructed wetland. This is also well-known technology to can reduce the water volume, and also can improve the water quality through the constructed wetland, and it may also contribute to reduce the greenhouse gas too. We have constructed the pilot scale plant of the wetlands in the real landfill to treat the leachate that was generated in the landfill site. And we have planted the native indigenous cattail in the wetlands to save the labor cost and the money. And we tried the several operation modes to optimize the operation of the constructed wetland. And finally, we adapted the horizontal subsurface flow. That is kind of one of the flow mode. And it can reduce the volume of the leachate effectively. Normally, this kind of the free water surface is well-known technology to reduce the water volume. But this flow mode also showed enough level of the water reduction. And also, this mode can effectively remove the contaminants in the leachate, like organics or nitrogen. And when we talk about the nitrogen balance, the plant uptake of the nitrogen was very low in this operation mode. And most of nitrogen was removed by microbes or adsorption or volatilizations. So this kind of the low contribution of plant uptake of nitrogen will save the harvesting work of the plant in the wetlands. So that is a kind of the big benefit when we consider the practical operation in the wetland. So now we are thinking about the constructed wetland is the reasonable technology to treat the landfill leachate for longer times. Maybe we have to operate this for 30 years or 50 years or much more. To consider that cost of the operation, that is very reasonable. Especially, it can reduce the risk of the overflow by reducing the leachate volume. However, this is not goes by standalone, but it should be combined with other appropriate landfill management technology, like semiotic management or other kind of advanced technology. Finally, I also prepared the result of the analysis of environmental impact of landfill management for 30 years operation. And in your document contains detailed results, so I also removed. And I want to say the very important result here. The open dump site is not finally cheap if we consider about the environmental impact and the recovery cost. And semi-aerobic management can reduce the impact on water pollution with a recommendation of the combination with the constructed wetland to save the energy or money. And this is a kind of example, but this packaging concept of the landfill management and leachate management must be necessary if we consider to reduce the whole environmental impact from the landfill site or maybe from the waste management systems. Just summary, just repeating what I talked already, so I want to close my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive and informative presentation. The floor is open for discussion. Any question on his talk on the landfill management? Yes, Professor Vishu, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ishiaki. Nice and excellent presentation. Quite technical, I'm quite used to it. I just wanted to throw a question which is a bit of an open-ended. Currently, the landfill, many countries in Europe, including Japan, one philosophy is not to send any organics or not more than 20%. So the sanitary landfilling, what we are talking today, is totally changing. Okay, so it's one concept. I think you presented two technology. One is a semi-aerobic landfill. Another one is MBT, pre-treatment converting to RTF. Within the context of this COP21, the commitment related to greenhouse gas emission reduction and etc., what do you think, which technology will move further in future or should move in Asia Pacific region? And I also wanted to link that to the one part we are trying to promote, 3R, waste aggregation, recycling. Maybe can you link that to the technology we are talking out of these two technologies? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, if I'm Japanese, and since the semi-aerobic management of the landfill is developed in Japan, so I wanted to recommend the semi-aerobic management first. But in fact, this is depending on the situation of the city or society. I said something about the benefit on the semi-aerobic management, but it is also the kind of the good method during the something like transition of the urbanization or development. So still highly advanced city or highly advanced waste management system, the residue, quality of the residue that goes to the landfill should be more changed, maybe inorganic and more content toxic, and we should care much about the pre-treatment before landfill, like a solidification or cementation, something like that. So in this case, the semi-aerobic management that is directing to the organic degradation is not so much useful. There's some reaction under the aerobic condition can be also useful for stabilization of the inorganics, ions. But even consider these things, we should direct more like a strong function of the containment or more safety control of the landfill must be necessary. It is good answer for you. Okay, thank you.
Hey. Thank you for your excellent presentation. For me, since there's an indigenous uptake of plant for indigenous plant uptake as part of the bioremediation, I just want to know how you manage the plant when it dies. I don't know what's the practice, because as we know that in the plant later on there's heavy metals in it or toxic substances. So I don't know what technology then you're using. You use them.
I think there is the expert of the plant technology or plant engineering. So I don't have to say any kind of expert opinion. But normally the turnover of the cattail is considered. I forgot the number. But anyway, in our wetlands, the turnover rate is very low, especially in that horizontal subsurface flow mode. And still, we are elucidating the reason why, but at least we are already known that the rate of the turnover of the cattail is very low. Sorry, it's just current information.
Okay, any question from the audience? Okay, so now time comes, so I'd like to close his presentation. Please, let's give a big hand for the talk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Joan Areruya. I'm not sure if I can pronounce properly, but I got permission from him. Is a coordinator of the regional program on proper and sustainable solid waste management in secondary cities and small towns, which has been implemented by UN's CAP since 2009. With ES CAP, he also worked on initiatives related to the efficient use of energy and advanced fossil fuel technologies. Okay, so. He is working in the Norwegian-owned CDM project development company based in Beijing, China. He has a lot of experience in this field. Okay. United Nations Economic and the Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Okay, so floor is yours. John, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. I would also like to thank the organizers for inviting UNESCAP to present at this forum. On my presentation, I will introduce you to the work of UNESCAP in promoting, in supporting countries in the Asia Pacific in the adoption of waste to resource initiatives. And I will focus especially on the lessons learned and recommendations that we have from more than 6 years of hands-on experience. So, since 2009, that ESCAP, in partnership with the Waste Concern from Bangladesh, has been helping cities in the Asia Pacific in managing municipal solid waste in a cost-effective, proper, and sustainable manner. So this is a regional program that has mainly hinged in the piloting and in testing, in implementing what we call integrated resource recovery centers, which I will explain a bit. And we have also supported cities and countries in the region in upscaling these centers. I typically, I usually start my presentations by providing the bigger picture, the overall context. I think that this was already covered a bit, especially this morning with the presentation of Professor Vishu. But I think that it's important to note and to emphasize that current practices in most countries in the Asia-Pacific region, especially developing countries, are still very much focused on disposal, collection and disposal of waste, with the so-called end-of-the-pipe solutions being the most prevalent practices. So these practices are not sustainable and overlook the enormous potential for converting waste into resources. So over the past, actually more than the 6 years of the implementation of this project, for a long time that ESCAP has been advocating for a paradigm shift towards a more systemic approach based on the principles of reducing, reusing, and recycling, where some value can be generated from waste and with the potential to generate many co-benefits. So it is in this context that over the last few years that ESCAP has been promoting the concept of Integrated Resource Recovery Center, IRRC, which are facilities that can process a significant portion of the waste into resources in a cost-effective manner, in proximity to the source of generation and in a decentralized manner. So the basic idea of this model, of this concept, is to collect source segregated waste, to process the different fractions into resources, and to sell and to obtain some income from the sale of those resources produced. So this model, the IRC model, was developed by an NGO based in Bangladesh, Waste Concern, with remarkable success there. And we believe that the main principles of this model can be replicated elsewhere in the region, especially in small cities, in smaller towns of the region, where the economies of scale of the large centralized solutions do not work. So typically an IRC has a capacity to process 2 to 20 tons of organic waste per day. It relies on manual labor, and as I mentioned before, it's a very important component of this model is that at least some degree of separation at source is made. So this diagram is an elaboration of the previous one. Once more, from top to bottom, we have the different approaches that are part of this model. For example, organic waste consisting of fish and meat waste ideally should be used into a biogas digester, with the resulting biogas being used as electricity, as a heating fuel or being converted into electricity. If you can get a hold of waste streams that are high in calorific value, such as, for example, the remains of plastic or textiles, one option is to convert these into refuse-derived fuel through a process of shredding and pelletization, and these RDF pellets can be used to replace the combustion of coal in cement factories or brick kilns. So there are different approaches that are part of this IRC model. This is how a typical IRC looks like. These pictures were taken from the training center that is owned and operated by our partners Waste Concern in Dhaka, Bangladesh. So this IRC consists mostly of a small-scale composting plant So you can see here the different elements of the process. So the waste arrives here at the plant. It needs to undergo some secondary sorting. Then it is placed on these composting boxes where for some 60 to 70 days will be transformed, will be converted into compost. And we have here the final product being sieved and packed. And then this compost can be marketed for an income. Over the course of these years, we have supported 17 cities across 6 countries, which are Bangladesh, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. We have supported these cities in different manners. For example, in the preparation of what we call baseline surveys. This is a very important step that is necessary to be conducted so as to understand the characteristics of waste generated, the quantities of the waste. This is a step that, for example, should not be overlooked. Many cities have no idea of the characteristics of the waste that they are generating. Even if we take a city like Islamabad in Pakistan, the latest, as far as we know, the last time that a baseline survey was conducted was in 2004. So there are different aspects that we have been supporting these cities. For example, the preparation of a business plan. Professor Vishu this morning mentioned about looking into waste as a business, to explore the possibilities of making a business out of the waste. And for us, it's very important to ensure the sustainability of these plants for a long time. And for this purpose, it's important to conduct simple business plans to understand at least how can these waste treatment facilities break even. But of course, the core of our support in some of the cities has been in implementing these so-called integrated resource recovery centers. Over the course of these 6 years, we've been able to have very interesting experiences, which are condensed on the book that I have here, Volume Waste Transforming Cities, which was released in October 2015. I brought just very few copies with me, and in the spirit of paperless forum, but I encourage you to download this from our website, or if you Google the title of the publication, it's the first thing that you'll get. So this publication has a very good account of what has been our work on the different countries, and also distills the main lessons from our experiences. And we also provide a set of recommendations for practitioners and policymakers. And we have split them into 4 main components: the building up of partnerships, change in behavior and awareness, the sound management of facilities, and the creation of an enabling environment and the possibilities for upscaling. I start with the first area. Waste to resource initiatives are almost per definition, I would say, multi-sectorial, multi-stakeholder endeavors that involve organizations such as government bodies, community-based organizations, the informal sector, households, businesses. And it is important to leverage, to maximize, to the extent possible, the contribution of each of these stakeholders into the right sort of partnership arrangement. And based on our experience, this is very much context specific. What works in one city does not necessarily work on the other. For example, in the projects that we have been supporting in Sri Lanka, in the cities of Matale and Ratnapura, the arrangement that is in place consists of a public-private partnership, whereby the local government is in charge of collecting, transporting the waste to the waste processing facility, whereas a private sector organization is in charge of running the integrated resource recovery center. In another country, in the city of Quy Nhon in Vietnam, the IRC is fully operated by the community. Whereas in another city, in Cambodia, in Kampot, where we also have an IRC, who runs the plant is an NGO. So there is not a one-size-fits-all model that can work everywhere, and it is very important to take into account the local context. On the second area of where we extract some lessons from this project, it's the improving of awareness and changing behavior, which is very important when we speak about waste to resource initiatives. The implementation of waste to resource initiatives implies a change in mindsets, in behaviors, in perceptions. And this is especially important on the need to engage communities, those who generate waste, in the segregation of waste at source. We see from our experience that many times local governments get frustrated because after a couple of months of trying the segregation of waste at source, it doesn't work. So they get discouraged. But this does not need to be the case, because changing of mindsets and perceptions, this takes a long time in a continuous engagement. And so it is very important to have a programmatic approach towards this, and not simply a project-based approach where we try something for 2 or 3 months and fails and we say that this does not work. No, it's important to have a programmatic and, if possible, long-term approach. And to this end, it's important also to find a local champion, which can be a community leader, it can be someone at the local government, someone who has the strategic vision to understand that there is a need for a continuous engagement. The other area of where we can draw some experiences is in the management of facilities and improvement of operations. I'm not going to elaborate on this point too much, because this is mostly focused for another type of audience of local governments. But we can come back to this at a later stage after the Q&A if you are interested. So I jump straight to the fourth area of where we extract lessons from this project, which is the creation of an enabling environment and the possibilities of upscaling. If you are a project developer or someone who is engaged in a waste resource initiative, such as a composting plant or an aerobic digestion plant, it is important to ensure that this developer has a fair return from the investment that they make. And in the case of, let's say, a composting plant, one of the challenges that we see in many countries in the region is that the final product, compost, has to compete in the marketplace with heavily subsidized chemical fertilizers. And this significantly hurts the financials, the financial viability of a composting plant. So there is a need for policymakers to understand this and to act on this, and to create a level playing field to enable such developers of waste resource initiatives to obtain a fair return on their investment. And for example, in the case of compost, the important thing, or one of the options, is to remove the need to remove the subsidies to chemical fertilizers, or to come up with some sort of support scheme to the plant developers, such as, for example, if for example part of the waste collection fee can revert to the operation of the plant. So this is a very important learning. And the same parallelism can be drawn for a biogas plant, an aerobic digestion plant. If the biogas has to compete with subsidized LPG or subsidized electricity, there also needs to be the creation of an enabling environment that allows the sustainability of such plants. Just some words about the upscaling. Based on our experience, upscaling should be modular and incremental, step by step. I can give you an example. The project that we have in Matale, which is a city in the heart of Sri Lanka, it's a small city, it's 40,000 people. Our approach has been very much step by step. So we first started with a small pilot of 2 tons per day, with a capacity to process 2 tons per day of waste. The pilot worked very well, and the local government decided to build a second plant, also 2 tons per day. Then with our with ESCAP's financial support, a third plant was implemented, and currently a fourth plant with the support of the funds from a national program, the Pilisaro program, is going to be commissioned soon, which will enable the city to process more than 90% of its waste in a decentralized manner. So, to our knowledge, this will be the first city in Asia Pacific that is zero waste. There are other avenues for upscaling, especially including national programs. There is also the possibility of leveraging international climate financing mechanisms. One of them that we have been especially keen in exploring is NAMA's, Nationally Appropriate Mitigation Actions. I'm not sure to what extent the audience is very familiar with the concept of NAMAs. But NAMAs pertain to strategies, programs, and actions that developing countries can undertake on a voluntary basis as part of their commitment to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. NAMAs should be embedded into national development policies and should contribute to sustainable development. So the waste sector and waste resource initiatives offer this double dividend. On the one hand, you can reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases. On the other, there is a huge potential for co-benefits. And so we've been working with a few countries in the region in the preparation of specific NAMA programs. And if we look into the outcomes of Paris, NDCs, nationally determined contributions, will have to be implemented in some way. And we believe that NAMAs can be one of the mechanisms that will allow the implementation of NDCs. And even some countries, for example, Vietnam, have recognized the importance of NAMAs in implementation of their nationally determined contributions. I will finalize my presentation very soon. I just want to shed light on the importance of measuring co-benefits. Actually, sound waste management practices, as we have seen already today, can generate a broad spectrum of co-benefits. We have identified 9 SDGs that are directly supported by waste resource initiatives. I have noted this morning that we can even have more SDGs supported by waste resource initiatives from Professor Visso's presentation. Now, what we tried to do was the following. We tried to quantify in US dollar terms what is the level of co-benefits that can be derived from waste resource initiatives based on our on-the-ground concrete experience from the projects in the region. So what we did was we just took a handful of co-benefits. The economic benefits that are mentioned here: reduced costs with landfilling, extended landfill sites, improved crop yield, better job opportunities. These are also the co-benefits that we can more easily get some data. And what we try to do is to understand what is the co-benefit generated per ton of organic wastes processed into compost beyond the plant boundary. So this is a conservative calculation because we have just taken a handful of co-benefits, and the results are presented on this table. So, and what we have concluded is that for a country like Bangladesh, 1 ton of organic waste processed into compost can generate $47 in co-benefit, which mostly come from the saving of costs for the municipality in avoided landfilling and transportation of waste, and also savings in subsidies with chemical fertilizers, and also savings in chemical fertilizer used. In Sri Lanka, this value is of $57 per ton of organic waste, whereas in Vietnam, $92 US dollar per ton. So we need to have a holistic vision, a holistic understanding of the co-benefits that can be generated. Tomorrow, I'm almost finishing. Tomorrow, UNDP is organizing a webinar on which will explore this topic in more detail. On the quantification of co-benefits in association with NAMAs. This webinar is tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. It will have the participation of ESCAP and the Waste Concern. If you are interested, the only thing you have to do is to register online, and you can learn a bit more in detail how these calculations have been made and how to associate these co-benefits with NAMAs and with national policies. So just to finalize, our experiences and our research has been collected in a number of deliverables, a number of materials, from brochures, fact sheets, research papers, and of course this publication, which I really encourage you to download. And you can do it from the link that you find here, or you can contact me directly. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for the very comprehensive and wide range. I believe the many huge effort behind this presentation. So any question or comment? Floor is open for discussion.
I would like to know that in your presentation you talked about a few countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and all, but then you didn't talk about like other countries, for example, like Thailand and Myanmar. Is this because like they aren't interested in this waste to resource, or is it because they have like some alternative which you do not have a data to?
Okay. Thank you for your question. The reason why I focused on my presentation on those countries is because these are those countries where we have implemented our project. So we could only focus in the context of this regional program on a few countries, but this does not mean that other countries do not have the need for this type of solutions. India, for example, shares many similar characteristics to Bangladesh or to Sri Lanka. Yeah, there are many lessons learned from these other countries that can be utilized, that can be replicated and considered in the context of others that I did not mention.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. I just want to know this organic fertilizer or compost market that's been demonstrated in these countries and cities, if it's been successful or not with the particular countries, especially in the market of compost.
So if I understand your question, if it has been...
Yeah, the marketing of compost, you know, if it's like successful, because it would be nice if we can see some figure, you know.
Yeah, I can give you some figures. Actually, the market for compost can have huge variations from country to country. I can give you the examples of Cambodia and Vietnam. In Cambodia, the price per ton of compost you can easily sell at $150 per ton. In Vietnam, you'd be lucky if you sell by $30 or $40 per ton. So you see that there are different countries, different market prices for the compost. Now, what we try to do in the context of our project and our IRCs is that the financial sustainability of these plants should not depend in a single source of revenue. So we look into the sale of compost, sale of recyclables, and in some countries, we advocate that there is the payment of some sort of a tipping fee, or that part of the collection fee, the waste collection fee, can revert to the operation of the IRC. I can give you the example of the IRC that we have in Islamabad, in Pakistan. In the business plan, the sale of compost only accounts for 20% of the whole income generated. But we think that it's important. We have worked with some local governments in national governments, and we have advocated for the creation of this level playing field for the commercialization of compost. In the case of Vietnam, for example, there is a huge distortion in the market with the heavy subsidies to chemical fertilizers. And so we need, but another important aspect that I would like to emphasize is that it's important to have a product with some quality. So if you have a certain level of segregation of waste at the source, if there is good segregation, it's more likely to have a good final product. For example, if you look into MBT, which is essentially an end-of-the-pipe solution, the quality of the compost is very low. No one will want to buy your product. So if you are able to have a good quality product, and if you are able to have it certified and labeled, this increases your chances of selling it for a higher price.
Okay. So any more questions? Okay. From this floor.
Sorry. Do you have any plans for to extend your scope of service, for example, to cover the e-waste, like let's say copy machine, to the cartridge from copy machine, like that?
I did not understand the question. What?
I mean, do you have any plan to extend your scope of service, not organic waste like that, but just to cover e-waste, like I don't know, let's say toner cartridge from copy machine.
Yeah.
I have this technology in place, but I have to and more.
Yeah, we don't look into e-waste. We have not looked into waste in the context of our program. We have looked into the streams into different streams of municipal solid waste. If you look into most developing countries, one of the main challenges is what to do with the organic component of the waste, which very often is above 50%. In a country like Bangladesh, it can easily go for 80%. So we have been focusing more on how to address this component of the waste. But this is not to say that e-waste is also a type of waste generated that should be taken care of. But at this point, we have not focused yet on the handling of e-waste.
Any question? Okay. Oh.
Thank you for the presentation. I have two questions. One is about the baseline data. Just wondering how are you going to do with the baseline data and what's the next for the countries? Because you also mentioned in your presentation there will be capacity building program and institutionalization. So after that, how are you going to do with that? This is the first question. The second question, you mentioned about to qualify the environmental, economic, and social indicators among the countries. Just wondering, are you going to compare among these countries, and also this mechanism could be replicable to other countries as well? Whether this is a standard mechanism? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Regarding the first question, if I understood well, concerning the baseline studies, well, the usefulness of these baseline surveys is to understand aspects, especially the composition of the waste. What is the share of organics? What is the share of recyclables? And what are the quantities? And where are waste streams generated? And if you want to design a good solution, you have to take into account all these aspects. So based on that, I think that the preparation of a baseline survey is an important tool for a local government to better plan its waste management strategy. Now, the second question was about what we do next in terms of replication. Right. You mean with respect to with respect to this data we have presented?
Yeah, and how to do with these figures? You just want to get these figures to get the unit for the co-benefits, or you want to have the comparison among the countries, and also this kind of mechanism could be replicable to other countries as well? This is the question.
Yeah. So the idea of, because there are different motivations for coming up with this data. First of all is that when we look into waste, we see it as a cost. And what we are trying to see with this is, this is not necessarily a cost. Actually, you can extract resources out of the waste, even if they are not really visible beyond the boundary of the plant. So what we try to do is to quantify in a conservative manner in what consists these benefits that go beyond the boundary of the plant. We also had this work done in association with the climate financing mechanisms, because with the adoption of composting, 1 ton of organic waste converted into compost through the box composting method can lead to the reduction of 0.5 tons of CO2 equivalent. So there is a potential to associate this with the clean development mechanism and with the crediting of the greenhouse gas emission reductions. And whereas 4 or 5 years ago we were looking very keenly into the CDM, as you may know, the market for carbon credits has crashed. And what we also want to show with this is that 1 ton of CO2 that is reduced with the implementation of these projects, in fact, has a much higher impact expressed in US dollar term with respect to the co-benefits that are generated. So these were just some of the motivations that led us to conduct this analysis. As I have mentioned, tomorrow we are going to hold a webinar hosted by UNDP, and we can, if you are interested, you can have more detailed explanation on this topic, on this subject.
Thank you very much. Okay, so time is up. So, I would like to close this presentation. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce next speaker, Dr. New Dongje. She is currently an associate professor in College of Environmental Science and Engineering, Dongji University, Shanghai, China. She has carried out a series of projects on anaerobic digestion of organic waste and landfill leachate treatment. So today's her presentation title is Rural Domestic Solid Waste in China, a comprehensive analysis of characteristics, management, and legislation. Okay. So, she is leading on some projects, including 863 high-tech project supported by Ministry of Science and Technology of China, and project sponsored by Shanghai Science and Technology Committee and others as well. Okay. Okay. So please welcome Dr. New Dongje.
Thank you so much for the chair's introduction, and thank you so much for the organizer's invitation for me to give the presentation here. It's my pleasure to present both our institute, our university, and our work. Firstly, please permit me to use a very short time to introduce Tongji University and our institute. We have Tongji University is located in Shanghai, China, and we have the very big campus, totally 5 campuses in Shanghai, and we have more than 50,000 students, and also we have some international students, more international students these days. And in the field of environmental science, we have the long history, more than 60 years. And for ASD, it's the firstly joint established by UNEP and Tongji University in the year 2002. And our work mainly focus on three parts. One is the education, another part is for the research and also for training. For education, we have the international master program and international PhD program. And also for research, we have the research team, more than 50 research groups, which is based on the whole university, because this is a university level platform. And for the research, we have a lot of research work about the water issue and waste issue, and also the transportation, city planning, and so on. Actually, our university is famous for urban planning and construction, and also we have the very strong team for the environmental science. So this is the introduction about our university and our organization. And then I will show you our basic research on rural solid waste management in China. We do some review on in this field so far, because in China, more than half of the population living in the rural area. So rural solid waste currently is already a very big issue in China. Before we mainly focus on the urban area, but now we move the K-point to the rural area, because in China it is too big, and also we have a lot of diversity, and because in some of the places it's very low density, and also we are big, so regional difference is quite big, and unbalanced economic development and complicated characteristics. So in our research, we try to collect the data from most of the researchers has already done in all over China. So here is the list about the total generation of waste in the rural area. Based on the per capita generation rate, it's varied from 0.2 kilogram per capita per day to 2.1 kilogram per capita per day in the rural area. So it is quite different. And in most of the places, this data is quite low, because normally we think in the city in China is around 1.1 kilogram per capita per day, but in the rural area the data is quite lower than this one, and it's varied significantly in different places, because in the east parts, the economic situation is better, and a lot of rural area is just like the cities. But in the west part of China, it's quite poor and underdeveloped. So the total situation is quite different. And regarding the composition of the waste, it also different. We have the very big portion of organic waste, but compared with the urban waste, it's lower. Normally, it's around 20 to 40% of organic waste, but in the urban area, currently that is around 50%, more than 50% of the waste is organic waste. And also, even for this 20 to 40% of the organic waste, you couldn't find in the waste stream, because in the rural area, normally they use this food waste for the feeding of the animals. So that is a very big problem to change the behavior of the local people, because they can really handle those waste, but based on the problem of the hygienic, we want to change the behavior. We want to divert those food waste from the animal feeding, but that is quite difficult. And And in most of the places, the composition of the rural area solid waste is mainly unrecyclable materials. And currently, regarding the system, management system for the collection of the waste, normally it was organized by the local government. I mean, in the village area, the village officials will handle those collection of the waste, and the transportation and treatment need to go to the township officials. So that means different levels. In village level, they collect the waste, and for the transportation and the treatment, and that is the county level. And regarding the classification of the waste is quite difficult in most of the rural areas, especially it's quite difficult to last. Even at the beginning, maybe you have some subsidy. Just now, Mr. Juan mentioned about the subsidy. You know, we once have that in some pilot places, but it's quite difficult to last because in the rural area, the people, if they don't have the economic stimulus, it's quite difficult to convert their behavior. So in most of the county level places, we have some treatment facilities. For example, we have the landfill, we have maybe some small composting plant and so on. But in the village level, normally we don't have the treatment facilities. So this is a very big problem for most of the places. Regarding the legislation, laws and regulations and so on, we have already had a series of laws and regulations on rural waste management. Even in our law of environmental pollution prevention and control of solid waste, that mention about how to deal with rural solid waste. But here I list some of the laws, but the implementation is quite difficult. So we still have a lot of challenge in the rural solid waste treatment and disposal. The main problem is starting from the sorting, collection, or even the reduction of the waste, source reduction of the waste. And secondly is the transportation of the waste. Because the transportation is quite costly, so transportation of the waste from the collection point to the treatment facility normally has a lot of secondary pollution, causes a lot of secondary pollution. And for the suitable treatment technology, currently it's not available for most of the waste, especially for organic waste. Just now I mentioned we can seldom say the organic waste in our rural waste because most of those materials has already been going to the animal feeding. So how to change the behavior is quite challenge for most of the officials. And for some of the areas, because the people living in scattered places, especially in those mountain areas, it's quite difficult to find to set the collection system for those places. So in summary, for the problem in most of the rural area, although we have the laws and regulations, but the implementation is quite difficult. And some detailed requirements for the waste collection and transportation and to final disposal is still not very fitful. And also, we are shortage of the infrastructure for collection and also for the treatment for different kinds of waste. Another problem for most of the poor area is also the financial resources. Just now, the expert mentioned about the tipping fee. You know, in the rural area, it's quite difficult to get the tipping fee. So that is one of the biggest problem for rural waste management. So for all the system, the best way is try to promote sorting collection and promote recycling. But we still have a lot of challenge for rural waste. So that's all for my introduction.
Thank you very much. So the floor is open for discussion. Any question or comment? Okay, please.
For the MSW city 10 years ago, but in those days there was no data for the rural solid waste, and we were explained that the scavenger, the illegal collector, is playing a very good role in the rural area. So no way for the researcher to make intervention. So the things are changing in China, even in the rural area.
Scavengers actually really play a very important role for the recyclable materials, but not for all the waste. You know, that is the main problem. And so we still have a lot of remnant waste in the rural area, because in the rural area, normally we couldn't find too much of the recyclable materials. And currently, there's a lot of research in this area, more and more research, and you can find some data in some of the papers now. I summarized the current research in 2 of our papers, so just published in the last year.
Professor New, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. Especially you are bringing out an issue about rural waste management in China. At least in my knowledge, the urban waste is well managed in China. They are moving more to waste to energy. You're building more and more incineration. Okay. Although you said the amount of per capita waste generated is less than 1 kilogram per person per day, the amount of waste produced is significantly large. I think it's somewhere more than 50%. So now coming back to this, our discussion, the COP21, sustainable development, SDG goal, and etc. What is the national policy? You cannot stay, that cannot be done. I'm a bit surprised, you listening to your presentation, I did not see a national policy how to tackle the problem, what type of technology we should go on, etc. I think the previous presentation, we listened to a very nice presentation, like what is the Chinese government policy, because waste is a very important sector, and the rural waste is an important issue. I think it's very important to understand a little bit more.
Yeah.
I would be appreciated if you could give you a little bit more insight.
Okay.
What is national policy on this?
Okay, sorry, I prepared these slides quite not very well. But for the national policy, actually, that is the basic policy is based on the hierarchy of the waste management. So reduce, reuse, recycling, and finally safety disposal or sanitary disposal of the waste. And in different periods, the focal point is different. In China, because in the year 2000, our focal point is environmental sound disposal of the waste. So that means not at that time more than 80% of the waste goes to the landfill. So we try to promote the pollution control in the landfill. But now, gradually, we have already built almost all the in all the city level we have the landfill, and also in town level we have the landfill. So now we try to move the focal point to recycling, and maybe later we will shift to the source reduction, but I think it's still take time. Now the central government try to promote not only recycling of the materials, but also recycling the energy. Just now, as you mentioned, in the next that in the coming 13 5-year plan, we will have the expanding in incineration, still expanding in incineration. Currently, it's almost more than 33% of the waste goes through the incineration plant. So I think when we go through the whole picture of waste management in all over the world, it follows the step of developed world currently, so far. So maybe in the future we will change out, forbid most of the organic waste into our landfill. But so far we still have a lot of organic waste goes to the landfill. So that is the introduction about the strategy, national strategy. And regarding the composition of our waste, just now I mentioned in our waste, the main part is organic part. So since the year 2013, the central government promotes diverting that part. Before we have a lot of sorting system. For example, sorting out of the recyclables, non-recyclables, and so on. But it's almost failed. So far, the central government focus on the organic parts. They want to divert the biggest parts from the waste. So now the central government promotes the food waste treatment facilities. We have already established a lot of food waste separate treatment facilities in more than 50 cities. I couldn't remember very clearly the number, but more than 50 cities.
Any question? If not, one from me. You're talking about the food waste using for the animal food, and what is the discussion in China about that? I mean, the using the food waste to the animal cultivation or food is efficient. I mean, in terms of the nutrient cycle. So, what is the discussion in China?
Based on our national strategy, it was forbidden because because of the food waste may result in the disease. I couldn't remember how to express that disease. That is
mad cow disease.
Yeah. I couldn't. But because of that, we forbid that route. But in the rural area, there are still a lot of activity.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. If not, I'd like to close this presentation. Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce the next speaker, the last speaker of today, Mr. Tawal Seng-Sa-Won. He received his master's degree in chemical engineering from Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. He has worked as marketing director at the Kesam, one of the private sector, and since 2005, focusing on electric waste recycling. And so the pointer. Oh, the pointer is missing.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, there. Okay. And today he is going to give a talk on the factors on e-waste management system in Thailand. Okay. File doesn't show up. Okay. Floor is yours. Please start.
Okay, come to last session and the last person as well. I think I'm only one person in this room come from private sector. So okay, I will share my experience about the private sector. Okay, today's presentation we are going to talk about e-waste factors on e-waste management in Thailand. And before we talk about this issue, let me introduce my company, our company first. TESAM is a global company in e-waste recycling business, and we do have about to see the second slide. Okay. We do have about 35 subsidiaries in all around the world, from EU, from USA, from Australia, and Asian country, Asia also. But most of the sites are located in Asian country, you can see, because of labor intensive. Right? And especially in China itself, there we do have about five locations in this country, and particularly in China itself, they have 5 sites. Right? In Shanghai itself, we do have recycle about the televisions. We run a recycling about the television about 2,000 or 2,500 televisions per day. So you can imagine that how big volume it is, right? So because over here in China itself, the WTO laws have been launched, have been implemented already. So why we have flexibility over there, because of we can run the business, because of we have enough volume to run the business over here. And we do hope that also in Thailand we could have the V laws will be implemented soon, because V's law, it is a tool just to make sure that we have enough volume to run the business. And if the volume is not enough or not constantly, so it is not make sense to invest machine to have flexibility in place, right? So we do hope to have this we launch soon in Thailand as well. And as I heard that we law in Thailand is still on hold, but I think it is still on hold by the royal decree. And as I know, only 4 groups to be launched first, and rather than 10 groups as the beginning agreement. But anyway, I still wait and see, because as I told you, it is quite important to us to run the business over there, over here in Thailand as well. Okay, come to the next slide. We have 2 types of service we provide to customers. The first one we talk about WTO, either from manufacturing or e-waste from household equipment. So we can recycle this group also. And the second one about the OEM materials for manufacturing, like PCB board, like electric waste, parts, electric waste, also try IC also. And the last section about the IT assets. And we do have to serve with the customer about the data wiping and decommissioning hard drive. This is quite important as well, because of when let's say you want to donate some of your computers to someone else, to the other person, you need to wipe your data or decommission your hard drive first, right? Otherwise, the sensitive data inside the solid device or inside the hard drive will be leaked to someone else. So it is not normal wipe, but using the Blanco, I use the Blanco. This is a software, the licensed software to just to make sure that it is safe to save, and then you can donate to someone else without any worry about the insensitive data. Our strong priority, okay, e-waste recycling is the main core business. And the second one is benchmark zero resin. This one, this is our in-house technology we have in place. This one developed by TSM France, and we mix some kind of many plastic that no one can recycle it. One can recycle, no one can buy it. Let's say the plastic to get consists of the fire retardant. This this material no one can recycle it. So that I just try this as to make a plastic pallet, and the next one we also have the lithium-ion battery. This one we focus only lithium-ion battery, and we have an in-house technology in place also, and we can recover the cobalt. Okay. And most of the sites we certify ISO 14000, 9000, or SARS, or ISMS 27000. ISMS is talking about information security management system. R2 certify e-waste recycle guideline. e-waste tracking system. We also give username and passwords to the customer, and then the customer can log in by username and passwords, and then you can see the process where their waste, which process to their waste authority, what kind of waste stream we dismantling for them. Customer can log in to see. High recycling ratio. Like for example, as I said, we try to utilize the plastic waste that where nobody can buy or can recycle it. We try to utilize as much as possible. For example, mobile phone, we can recover more than 98% up. We also have work environmental insurance just to make sure that we have insurance cover. If any material drop onto the road or into the river during transportation or during logistics, we can save CO2 emission 12.58 kilograms per one phone to one phone recycling. This one we do for operator in Thailand, let's say detect NIES. And the next slide, our basic process flow diagram. One is incoming material, the waste in. Okay, we just saw disbanding and sort into packaging, paper, rubber, glass, and the plastic is there. Okay, we do recycle here also. And metal go to smelter. And for the main waste stream, like e-waste, so we have two processes over there. We have physical process and chemical process. Before I go to chemical process to extract the precious metal, so we can crush by mechanical process first. And the right hand side, just talking about the environmental machine control only. Okay, for coming back to the highlight on the factors on e-waste management in Thailand, I call lump factors, because most of the factors over here come from these four bodies linked together, these stakeholder. I don't know whether anybody here come from this party today. Maybe no, because most of you guys come from professor, lecturer, or researcher. So why ask this question? Because most of the time when I present to and talk to the other forums, many stakeholders, I have to aware and have, because it's sensitive data and sensitive talking, because many party concerned. Let's say the first one from government law enforcement concern, and the next the user or consumer, and also manufacturer, producer, and including importer as well. And the last factors come from processor or recycler. For myself, from recycler. Let's take a look at the factors. Okay, the first factor is talking about we. If you can launch or if you can implement we laws as quickly as possible. So, the more you can take back, the more you can recycle, of course, the more you can save natural resources, because I can extract the precious metal from this material. And yeah, as I said, we still wait and see, because still on hold by not hold by Ministry of Finance anymore. Still on hold by royal decree. Right? Okay. The next factor is e-waste from manufacturing. E-waste from household equipment. So this e-waste from manufacturing already controlled. We have laws enforced already by Department of Industrial Work and the Ministry of Industry. And for household equipment, still waiting WEES law. This one we still waiting. Once we implement, launch, okay, we cover all the area, so that we can have enough volume to run the business. Lack of collection center. So I think the government have to assign this local administrative office to be as a collection center. Otherwise, nobody know how to drop and where to drop, because I think it is the best way to use this location, this location to be as a collection center, because they are in place around the world, across Thailand already, right? And in every province, and close to your house, you can implement, because all in place already. And lack of collection bin. So okay, if the collection bin collection center have been provided, so collection bin will be provided accordingly. So no problem this way, but should be provided by government. No cost in class. This one, I'm curious to see whether Ministry of Education have to put cost in place, put the cost in the class. The cost on e-waste management, because let's say for new generation, because if you let them know and aware of the waste, you will not get more and more waste in the public, right? Because the waste, I said, waste will go along with you in all your life until you die, and because you create your waste by yourself. So if you take care of the waste, okay, no problem. The waste will not get more and more in the public. So write off the assets by Revenue Department. This is another notification from Revenue Department as well, because this one, the notification said you need to crush or damage the assets first before dismantling, before recycling process. So what happened, let's say copier machine, printers consist of toner cartridge, ink cartridge. When you damage, crush them, and they do in open air, So what happened is hazardous chemical is released to the atmosphere. So this kind of thing, we need to get brainstorming together with the government how we're gonna solve the problem. Okay, the next one is the DIW, Department of Industrial Work, under the Ministry of Industry. This one also in case of e-waste from manufacturing. This one also have a problem, because some parts of products, some part of electric products made from 100% pure plastic or 100% let's say metals, but this is a part of electronic waste, electric product. But DIW classify this material as a non-hazardous waste. So it is quite hard to ask, because this is to get the approval document done easily. If you cannot, would that be possible if you classify this material to be as the same condition as the e-waste? So it is easy to get document done. The next one is dumping area. Yeah, still have in Thailand no strict control for the dumping for the illegal landfill. Next slide, we're gonna talk about the U factor. Yes, money is the number one for the consumer, for the user. Not only Thai, this is Thai culture, but I think the same in Asian country as well. I think because they think the waste is not the waste is not the waste. The waste is money, right? So when they want to buy a new appliance, they go to the retailer shop. So they need incentive promotion or something like a gift voucher or lucky draw, because they would like to get incentive from the seller. If the seller cannot provide this kind of promotion, so they're looking for the other choice, the other option. Let's say to sell to junk shop. So what happened to the junk shop? As you know, just cherry pick up. Lack of awareness, lack of knowledge. Sorry. So most of the people never get trained from government or from school at the beginning. No information, no communication to public, and they don't know what hazards from e-waste after use. Most of people, I mean, and most of people also they don't think it is a hazard like we think. And lack of awareness, yes, most of people know about reduce, recycle, triage, but most of them still don't know Article 4, which is your responsibilities. As I told you, if you don't take care of your waste, okay, your waste will get more and more in the public because waste is go with you, will go with you until you die. Right? Okay, let's take a look at the next slide about the manufacturers. Lack of take back campaigns. Only big company and international company have the take back campaigns in place, and they can run continuous process. But on the other hand, for the local manufacturer, local company, they have only they have a take back campaign in place, but they just run as a part of CSR program, so they cannot run in continuous process. So this is quite hard to organize. And in insufficient communication, of course, because of local company have a take back campaign in place, but no information, no communication, so it fails at the end as well. Because they just run 1 or 2 times per year because there's a CSR program, so they don't waste time or waste money to invest the promotion material like leaflet, like banner, like poster to the public. So public don't know your company have the take back campaign, right? No incentive, no promotion to the public. The same case, if they cannot provide incentive, promotion, or give voucher to the buyer, so the buyer will looking for the another choice like a junk shop, as I told you. Insufficient collection bin as well, and yes, only big city and main city they provide to the big city only. Yeah, and only for the small equipment device, because bulky like fresh waters, washing machine, television, they cannot provide because it's quite big size, right? And and the collection bin have to fix to the permanent construction as well, because otherwise it will be lost, the whole unit. This is a Thai culture. Lack of reverse logistic model. Okay, this one also, the big company try to save the cost for logistics. So once they sell a good products, at the same time they can bring back the old one, right? Just to save cost. Okay, eco design directive. This one also not big company try to save the cost for logistics. So once they sell a good products, at the same time they can bring back one type product consists of, let's say, ABS, PP, PS, but plus FR for data, then so this they sell a good products at the same time they can bring back one plastic type product consists of, let's say, ABS, PP, PS, but plus FR for data, then yes, so this they sell a good products and to looking for the proper management from recycling. Okay. I take a look for the last 2 slides. Sorry, I have 2 minutes left. Okay, cherry picking. Yes, mostly for the junk shop and dry cycle. This one you know already. Okay, for the management system, yeah, please take a look at the last slide. For the bad management system, when I compare with e-waste recycling using EPR, is saying the extended producer responsibility model using between EU and Asian country. You can see. In EU side, high standard technology, right? And of course, they have high operation costs. Not so many recyclers in this area because high operation costs, and of course, competitiveness is quite low comparing with the Asian country. In country, low technology standard, low operating costs, of course, right? And because of labor intensive, so you have many recyclers in the Asian country. So if you have many recyclers here in Asian country, so competitiveness is quite high. So the manufacturer looking for the price to get paid rather than to pay for disposal. So the recycler need to buy the scrap, right? So at the end, management system is getting low and low because they try to offset the price they offer to manufacturer, right? So okay, let's move back to the slide. Lack of standardized recycler in Thailand. Yes, most of them are local traditional technology. But once we launch in Thailand, I'm quite sure whether, let's say, TESM Thailand also will invest machine to have facility in place with the high technology. And the last factor talking about the recycler want to be a bidding winner. This is very important thing, because they don't care what facility they have. Because most of the waste stream, they cannot treat all the waste stream they can. Because let's say once they try to offer the high price to get the winner, but once they get the winner, what happened? Let's say a couple of weeks or 1 month later, manufacturer or customer call for pickup for collection. They just inform customer that, hey, sorry, I cannot pick up with the price I offer you before because the marketing price dropped now. So what happened? The manufacturer or customer don't want to re-bidding process again, because it is quite complex. Yeah, because of so many party concern and takes time. So at the end, they can negotiate the price with the customer. So they got the lowering price. So after that, some waste stream, they cannot trade it. So, okay, that's all where I like to share with you guys. Thank you for attention.
So floor is open for discussion. E-waste is one of the hot issues nowadays. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentations. I'm Nobia Sasaki, a new faculty here. I was very much interested in the number you give for carbon footprint by saving one phone. Was it that number calculated by your company, or was it? If so, how did you do that? And is there any validators like carbon validator or verifier that validate that number? Thank you.
So this number comes from our facility recycling process in Singapore. Yeah. No, the others certified by our figure result. The number, you mean 12.58, right?
12.58.
Yeah. This number comes from our facility, from our recycling calculation.
Okay, but is that number has been validated or verified by any carbon auditor?
No. Sorry, no.
In that case, how do the client trust your company? I'm sorry because usually the carbon needs to be verified before you can sell it, or even
this one we just use in our internal use, just to
for your own internal.
Yeah.
Any other question? Okay, then I'd like to close this presentation. Thank you very much. So we still have 8 minutes to have overall discussion on this session. And we have 4 presenters this session, and from technical aspect in the landfill and the social aspect in the coordinating in the developing country, and policy and legislation in Chinese case, and private sector and e-waste from Thailand. So any the questions or any the comment on those presentations, if any? Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question referred to ESCAP. Sorry if when you talk about carbon, the co-benefit from waste management, what are the recipients of the benefits? I mean, let's say in Cambodia, for example, there are people who are depending on collecting value things in the garbage for their daily livings. Are those people included in the benefit sharing? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. When you look into core benefits, they can revert to different individuals, organizations. Actually, the benefits can be both to society or private. For example, if you utilize composts in combination with chemical fertilizer, but you decrease chemical fertilizer, based on our research, you can expect an increase in crop yield of 25%. So the benefit reverts to the individual or to the organization that is selling that agriculture product. But the benefit can also come to society. For example, we have, or to the government. I mentioned on my presentation that many countries subsidized chemical fertilizers. So if you reduce the use of chemical fertilizers, you also reduce the amount of subsidy that is paid. So in this case, it's a benefit that, that is reflected in the budget of the central government. If you look in the social benefit that we did not quantify, which is the benefits associated with a reduced spread of disease vectors, then this is a benefit, a wider benefit to society. So I can indicate you a publication, a paper that we have prepared about the quantification of co-benefits, where we also analyze, we also reflect on to whom reverts this benefit. It can be private, can be government, can be society as a whole.
The slum people who are living nearby the garbage or the waste site, they are making money because of collecting the value thing from that, like say recycled bottle, for example. How do these people, included in the benefit sharing, or they are ignored from the benefit sharing?
Yeah, this is a very important aspect that you have mentioned. When one intervenes, there are many case studies in developing countries, including the Asia Pacific, when city or the local government bodies interfere or conceive of a waste management approach. Many times they are not mindful of the fact that there is an informal waste sector, people that live out of the waste, of collecting waste. It is estimated that almost 2% of urban populations in developing countries live from collecting waste. So this is not a small number. So of course it's important to take this into account. In the context of our project, we have been very mindful of this. For example, in the Integrated Resource Recovery Center that we have in Cambodia, in Kampot, the workers of this center, they have been co-opted from the informal sector. They used to be informal waste sector members, have been integrated, formally integrated, and this also comes with an increase on in their incomes. And also coming back to your question, when we have calculated the co-benefits associated with better jobs, actually we have taken into account the increase in the salary from a waste picker that is integrated into these facilities.
Thank you very much. My question is also to the same speaker. And you talked about the capacity building in, you have center in Islamabad, and you talked about the capacity building regarding compost use. And I wanted to ask that whether, organic matter use and compost use is very important, specifically for an agricultural country like Pakistan. So regarding capacity building, are you focusing on the companies who are promoting or manufacturing compost, or are you focusing also on capacity building of the farmers, for example. We can encourage them and we can train them. I wanted to mention about an initiative in Pakistan which is working on cotton sector, Better Cotton Initiative. So they work on, all the processes in cotton production, and one part of it is also relating to encouraging and training the farmers on how to use that organic waste they have. So my question is about capacity building from the business side and on the farmer side also. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. The regional training center that we have in the context of this project is in Dhaka, in Bangladesh. We have trained many delegations there. In Islamabad, we have opened the first, so far our only pilot in Islamabad sector G15. So the plant was commissioned in September, so it has been operating for approximately 4 months. And we see a lot of interest on this concept in Pakistan, not only for replication in Islamabad, which, as you know, sectors, but also in other. One of our objectives is to have this pilot, this IRC, as a training center. And the IRC is being operated by the Dr. Akhtar Hamid Khan Memorial Trust, which also has a social business branch, so they provide collection services on that sector, sector Islamabad, and they also operate the IRC. So there is their intention to set up training models and to have this IRC as a training center for different stakeholders. Typically, the people that are trained are local government bodies, NGOs, community-based organizations. We are not really thinking about farmers on the use of compost, because this is something that occurs beyond the boundary of the plant. But in this regard, I would like to tell you that in Islamabad, we have a partnership with the Arid Agriculture University of Rawalpindi. So they have supported us and they have supported our partners in the process of composting and also in the testing and also in spreading out the word about the benefits of composting, of using compost in agriculture. So one of the next steps is precisely to give samples of the compost produced on this IRC to farmers. So we have this cooperation with Arid Agriculture University of Rawalpindi.
Thank you very much. Maybe we still have some question or comment, but time is so limited. So I'd like to close this session. So please give a big hand to the presenters and the active discussion this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Katayama and the presenters. And just to highlight that today, this session had presenters from various sectors, including private sector as well. So I can see the energy has totally drained out in the room, but I hope the enthusiasm remains, and we'll all meet back in the room tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock with the keynote addresses. So for all the participants, thank you very much once again for joining us and making the forum an interesting one with various discussions and questions. So for invited guests, we will have the dinner reception at the dining room, the AIT Conference Center dining room at 6 o'clock. For all the others, have a nice evening and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Waste everywhere. And after the project is going on,